Hello, welcome to the Godscast at Graphic Policy. I'm Stephen Attewell,
And I'm Chris Holcomb.
and this is issue 13, where we finally meet fucking Tara.
Fucking Tara.
Yes, and we start with a cover that is very squarely pointed at her boobs.
Yeah, this
Um,
is this is
sort
a.
of setting up the
Are we
theme
going to
of
be
the
doing a
issue.
lot of?
So yeah, this is where you were talking last episode about are we gonna get human narrators or god narrators? And this is the first issue where we get a god narrator straightforwardly.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna go ahead and say this at the top,
okay,
guys. I'm not into this episode. I wasn't feeling Tara. I feel like the I was she was kind of built up, and that everyone referred to her as fucking Tara as though there was something different and obnoxious and pretentious about her, and I don't feel it. So like I didn't care about her story, and I didn't like her jewel except black and dressed like Lady Gaga uh, thing. So yeah, I'm finding it hard to really feel anything
hmm.
as how
That's
this
interesting
issue
because
went.
I kind of thought that was the point, that like everyone kind of treats her like this whole separate thing, and when you get to see her, like she's not that different from the rest of the gods, except that she has this issue with being a god. Um, and yeah, I think there's like so anyway, like in terms of this sort of themes of the issue, right? Very early on, right in the first couple page, there's this whole thing where she sort of says, um, they loved, like before it all went wrong, they loved me. No, not me. They loved it. So like she kind of disassociates from her own godhood. Um,
Yeah, and normally I'd find that okay, but I've kind of seen that sort of character thing with a rock star before. I mean, that was the driving force in Celeste and 6 Feet Under, and it's just like, do people love me or the mask? And it just feels
sorry, you
played
kind
out
of
to
cut
me.
off there.
Sorry,
Celeste and
Celeste in 6 Feet Under, where there's this:
ah,
do people love me or do they love the mask? I feel like I've heard this story before,
mm,
so it's just I couldn't get it up to care about her sitting on her
gotcha.
wearing a mask and playing guitar in an empty club. So
Well, it's not an empty club. It's a oh. Sorry, the second time, yes, it is an empty club.
yeah,
Um, I mean, the thing that I think is really interesting is like, if we think about like the meta side of this, right? This to me speaks to like every celebrity who like wants to do their own thing, whether it's like directing rather than acting, whether that's like the whole issue of like, are you a singer songwriter versus just a pop star, and what
hmm
that means. Um, and like, I think that's a big source of like dissatisfaction, is that like that whole sort of glossalia instant like adoration thing she really does not want. She wants to play her own songs, as it were. um and like the reaction is the like just intense opposite. Like all of a sudden the audience hates her. um
hmm
and the thing that actually made me feel sort of sorry for her is that like even her backup dancers hate her.
yeah, and I'm trying to think of the female music artist this could be carved from. It seems
A little bit of
like
Lady
an
Gaga, a little bit of Kesha.
I my mixture is actually Beyonce and Pink,
Okay, okay.
because Pink does do the all of a sudden you're at a concert and she's sitting on a stool with the Indigo Girls playing acoustic guitar singing about that the Iraq War needs to end. So
Oh, also a little bit of Lauren Hill,
that's fair. Yeah.
just in terms of like the way that the audience like sort of really did not respond to a sudden change in style. Um,
hmm But it
so
feels like a mostly Beyonce story, in that Beyonce is a very private person, in that
hmm,
you see her music. You see pictures of her baby. There's not a whole lot of presence here, and I've seen this is in the drag queen community. This has become a problem in that there's not a whole lot of Beyonce personality to impersonate.
hmm,
There's only her performance thing.
I see.
So
Okay. It's an interesting. I hadn't thought about that. So the other thing that like is a major theme of this episode is this thing where she says like, "I'm not just here for your pleasure, except I am, and I've known this since I was 11." And like this issue kind of is like sexual harassment the issue.
Yeah, I
And
can see
it's
that.
really sort of does make me wish that like we'd had enough time to arrange a guest host who was a woman who could speak to, you know, sort of street harassment and online harassment and some of these other issues. Unfortunately, we're trying to like get a whole bunch of episodes out pretty quickly. But I don't think
Yeah,
it's a topic that's going away, so we can always try to bring someone in later.
I'm sure we can have someone from our Rolodex. Yeah, but I don't know what's coming, so I'll leave that to you, Steve. If I need to.
Sure.
Uh,
So, yeah, you definitely get the sense of like, you know, she's. I mean, in part, this is the uh, sort of the particular variety of like a very attractive woman dealing with the world. But I did think the line about that goddess can turn into bitch in a second is kind of, I mean, especially for a comic book about gods, that's very telling.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it is kind of interesting that like we also see that she's the only god, as far as I can tell, who came up with their iconography before they became a god.
I don't think that we know that
Well,
because
I mean, I'm
like
just
we've
saying,
gotten
as
it.
far as we've seen so far,
Yeah.
because like we've seen what some of the gods looked like before they transformed, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
very different styles. You know, they go from wearing jeans and t-shirts to like haute couture. Um, and yeah, it's sort of you know, we then get this sort of exploration of like what separates her from the other gods. What is uh how does she feel about them? By the way, one thing I'll note, speaking of like not trusting Ananke, I got a real Phil Spector vibe from this issue.
He's the movie producer with all the hair, right?
Music producer, yeah.
Or music producer, yeah.
Yeah, with the crazy
Okay,
hair
yeah,
who
I
like
get that.
threatened people with
Who murders
guns
people?
and murdered people, and was just sort of like this, psychotic controlling presence. In the sense that like Ananke is encouraging her to do this thing that hurts her in the end.
Yeah.
And that like she can't really see how kind of toxic her presence is. Um, so the other thing, speaking of like how um, Tara kind of interacts with the gods, um, she does not get along with them because she hates quote unquote it and they don't.
So she doesn't like being a god.
No, and
So she'd rather go back to being
a human, yeah.
a marketing executive.
Or a fashion designer or whatever she or I
Yeah.
think she was a I mean my reading of the comic is she was a fashion student who was like doing gigs as a hobby and then got quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote discovered. Um
Right. And it's because a lot of her success she thinks is because of her
yeah.
body. So
And this like outside thing now that's sort of on top of the body, although clearly it's sort of made the body even more so because like now it's not just that she's like very, you know, attractive, but like, you look at the page where like the students are looking at exam results and like she's attractive, but she's like still a normal person. And now she's just like
mm-hmm.
7 foot tall and wearing dresses made out of meat. So, in terms of her interactions, like it is very telling, right? When she sits down at the table, Woden is immediately gross. Uh,
Of course he is.
Ball is sort of angry and posturing. Minerva wants everyone to get along, and like Sakmet kind of calls him out, but in the same sense of like uh, it's like the verbal equivalent of like when a cat knocks something off a table because it wants attention. It's like I want some drama.
mm-hmm.
Boom, let's kick this off.
Right.
And then I love the fact that like Tara is like taller and stronger than Ball. That is kind of an interesting subversion. We don't usually see that in comics.
Yeah. Um, and of course, a ball is a ball, for lack of a better word, of male
Oh
insecurity.
yeah, definitely. Especially the bit where he says, only God can judge me, and I am that God. Like, dude, you beat the shit out of a woman.
Shut up,
Like,
ball.
you don't really have much of a leg to stand on.
It if it wasn't for Baphomet Ball, you'd currently be at the bottom of my list.
Right.
So
And then we get Ananke and Tara on her own. And this is where like we reveal that Tara doesn't know which god she is. And
mhm.
Ananke doesn't want to
Which
tell
is
her.
you were teasing me with.
Yeah.
You were teasing me
Oh
with
yeah.
that because there's so many Taras to choose from.
Yeah, and she sort of points out that like um this is where she actually talks about her parents. She was saying
Mm-hmm.
Tara is all right, all right. She's South Asian of some, I mean, I don't know Indian, Pakistani particularly, but um you know, descent. But like she clearly, I mean, she's well educated enough that like she knows about other gods, or she's at least like done a Google search or two. Um, and
Right.
like Ananke totally ducks the question.
Yeah, there's a detail in here that's further strengthening my Ananke as little finger theory here, and it's the fact that she doesn't know which Tara she is. Kind of pokes a giant hole in. I mean, we've heard Amaterasu say that, like, oh yeah, we'll see each other
Yeah,
again the
I
next time we're
remember
both in the
my
Pantheon.
past selves, etc., etc.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah. Um, Certainly not in this case. Um, and then we get this.
I don't think
No,
it.
yeah,
I don't think it's true in
yeah.
any case. I feel like the entire God thing at this point is just a branding
Huh.
exercise on, not like she gives them certain powers and allows them to express themselves, and sort of she can kind of retcon gods into who they are,
Yeah.
because who really
And she's the
knows.
one telling them. Yeah.
So
Um, and she
exactly.
doesn't repeat herself or explain anything. So we then cut to, and this is where like it really becomes about like internet harassment. The
Mm-hmm.
iPad page, the splash page, where like literally it's an iPad that you're seeing. Um, and like you zoom in, and they've got different like handles, and like people are not just talking to like her, but like talking to one another, and it's ugly shit.
And you know what? Like, I just now realized, guys, I'm on a Kindle Fire. This is small. I didn't realize I could zoom in. I thought it was just supposed to be a wall of unreadable text. So this is actually the first time I'm seeing
Yeah.
this.
So it is like this toxic mixture of like death threats, rape threats, sexual obsession, sort of disapproving, sort of prudishness, um kind of celebrity hatred, um and it's just like ugh.
Honestly, there's one that bothers me more than all the others, at least the ones I've skimmed so far.
Okay, which one?
And that is at Thundery Cherries. It's from the bottom right, up four and left one.
Oh,
So this is, it says, follow back, you're so beautiful, and it's like in the midst
yeah,
of all
and it's
of
an egg
this
too.
terrible, it's an egg, but it's also the expectation of attention from a
Yeah,
woman,
absolutely.
and that's what gets me.
Yeah,
So
no, definitely.
yeah, I'm gonna process these while you keep
Yeah,
talking.
and like you definitely get the sense here that like this is why she decides to kill herself. or to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
And like it definitely, you can sort of see why someone with like her particular life experience, and this is why I think your whole thing about like what is Ananke up to here is that like it seems like she chose the literal worst person in the world for this job.
Right.
That like this is someone who just temperamentally is not suited to this kind of thing, and is, you know, even if everything had gone smoothly, would have broken down because like this just
Mm-hmm.
hits on every one of her insecurities, every one of like the traumas that she's carrying around in her life, and it's just like, oh god, you know, bugs under your skin kind of thing. Um, but yeah, the next line that kind of got to me was where, you know, Tara starts to sing and she sort of says, um, "When it comes out of me, it's wonderful. I hate it, but it's wonderful. It is me." Um, which is really
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting because, you know, like all of these gods, I mean, a lot of these gods have different sort of relationships to their godhoods. You know, some disassociate more than others. Some like it more than others. Some people are all about the performance. Other people are all about the trappings. Some like the audiences. Some have a more difficult relationship with the audiences. And like, this is the, you know, if we were using the meta analogy, it's like this is the sort of the myth of the natural talent, right? Someone who is like good at this
Mm-hmm.
without trying, without putting in that 10,000 hours, and therefore doesn't have like that kind of relationship to the process, to the art, where it's like this is what you do because it's the only thing that kind of makes sense to you or makes you happy or fulfills you. It's like it is a burden for her, which is kind of a different way of seeing the world. Um, yeah, and then Ananke takes her head off again. Um,
Yep.
and
I feel very vindicated in not
yeah, and
trusting
what makes it
Ananke.
all so much worse is she burns the suicide note. So it's not even that she's taking her life; she is taking the meaning of her death from her, which is like, you know,
Right.
you know, I mean, that is you know, I you know, I think you can debate the sort of relative immorality of her actions, but on some sort of existential level, that's almost the worst thing that she's done. Where it's like, you know, you've not just killed
Yeah,
her, you've killed
but
yourself. Anyway.
I wonder how many
Oh yeah.
times has
Oh
Ananke
yeah.
done
And
this?
like, especially like one thing that was on my mind from all of this is like, you know, not only does she have to manage the death, like not only just kill people, she has to stage manage the death so that, you know,
Right.
everything gets blamed on the right people. So we then cut to another.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
so this makes me wonder about Ananke's
Yeah.
selection process here, in that it's pretty clear to me that she has set Baphomet, like Tara was uh poorly cast, but Baphomet was
Yeah.
intentionally poorly cast to be someone who's easily frustrated. And so yeah, she's now she can kill as many gods as she wants to and harvest their time, and it all
Yep.
gets blamed on
He
Baphomet.
is a
So
great patsy because he is very unsympathetic. And
mhm.
then we go to another splash page. By the way, you know, if readers haven't noticed before, writer uh, Kieron Gillen is very into puns. So click holy is one of the worst things I have seen today. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty bad.
And then we go to another splash page of Twitter stuff, which like starts intelligible and then becomes not. So like you weren't completely off about like the sort of what the mosaic was, but it's that kind of like the way that
Hmm.
Twitter reacts to stuff where it's like you're being horrible to people. Like it's all one side or the other, right? You know, you're being absolutely horrible to people and then like they die and all of a sudden you're the complete reverse. You know, it's like you hound a
Right.
celebrity to the point where they have a breakdown, and then it's like, oh no, you know, we feel so bad. And it really is like, you know, you look at people's reactions, and like, you know, there's conspiracy theories about Baphomet, there's people complaining about having tickets, there's like people upbraiding other people about their bad takes. Um, you know,
Yeah.
and it's as if they hadn't been equally shitty before. And then we just sort of pull back, and it's just like, you know,
I've been trying to
the
zoom in
last
on this
page
one.
is
I'm
not
assuming I can't read
intelligible.
it,
It's
right?
just, I think, meant to be just a mosaic
Okay,
of
good.
social medias.
This does remind me of a tweet I saw once that said, like, adulthood is understanding Britney's 2007 breakdown and feeling it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I butchered that quote, but it's understanding the want to set everything on
yeah,
fire and
and like I have to
start
say,
over.
like, you know, one of the, I mean, I am generally a fairly optimistic person. So I'm often self-deceiving. Um, but one of the things that I sort of hoped came out of the whole like Me Too thing is making people go back and recontextualize like a lot of the kind of narratives of like, oh, crazy young female celebrity goes off the rails. Why is she going off the rails? I don't know. Maybe she had to deal with Harvey Weinstein. Like, maybe she had to deal with
Yeah.
what was his name? Who's the producer with Kesha? Doctor something something. Anyway,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
that
I
dude.
don't know his name.
Like, that just, you know, like, even if it wasn't the, like, you know, leaving aside the whole like, you know, social phenomenon where like everyone's entitled to your attention and your opinion, and you know, so on and so forth, like, and then you add the
Mhm.
like the abuse and the manipulation and the taking advantage, and it's just like, no wonder people go crazy. It would be fairly inhuman not to go crazy in that context.
Right. And yeah, I was kind of
Ha,
hoping we'd
yeah,
see Tara shave her head in that. Um, I totally understand Britney shaving her head, and it's like
yeah,
I need some space. And even though the trauma she was dealing with right now is they needed to do her hair a certain way, and she's like, "Well,
yeah.
I'm gonna fuck it up, so you can't fuck with me anymore." Um, I don't know. It's and my disappointment would be like I would like to see some more pushback from Tara in trying to reclaim before she decides to go for suicide.
Yeah, it does seem like we sort of only saw her at the like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the bottom.
And we don't see her trying to
Um,
isolate herself or get away from it. Like all we see is her being angsty about it and then deciding to kill herself. So
yeah, I mean, you know, we sort of got like, there were little verbal hints that like Tara is um kind of I don't know, like a recluse, you know, that like she only emerges to publish an album or something
right.
like that, and doesn't, you know, but you know, we didn't really like internalize that because it wasn't through like anyone's point of view or anything like that. But yeah, there we are at the end of issue 13. I actually don't have any spoilers for this issue.
Really?
Yeah, so I will just sign off with this. You can find me at Twitter at Stephen Attewell. You can find me at WordPress and Tumblr at Race for the Iron Throne. And see you next issue. Bye bye.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.